Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.
Oh, wait a second. Okay, so it's a photo of the very iconic, impossible to mistake for someone else, Jane Goodall, who I think she's in her late 80s, early 90s. Is that possible?
She turned 90 this year.
Yes, Jane Goodall. She's wearing a Patagonia jacket with a blue turtleneck, her bright, beautiful expression. I don't know where it looks like. It's in it could be a hotel. It could be in her house. No idea. And what makes the shot is that she's holding up a book called "The Dolphin Who Saved Me." That's right. And wait a second, your name's on the title of that book.
Yes, it is indeed.
Okay.
It is indeed.
So take it away.
Sure. So a couple of years ago, I decided to leave my full-time employment and write my memoir, which I'd been meaning to do for years and years and years, but never felt equipped to do it and never felt it was the right time. But through a set of circumstances, I decided that now was the time. So I'm a journalist by trade, but I'd never attempted writing a book before. So I sat down and I wrote it. It was one of the most difficult things I've ever done, and one of the most the roller coaster of emotions writing that book is something that I'd never really experienced before. It was picked up by an Australian publisher, then picked up internationally. So late last year, it was released around the world. And I was asked to think of people who I would like to write a little endorsement for it.
Nice.
So I've always been a fan of Jane's, always loved her work, admire her, such an inspirational woman. So I hooked up with an old colleague who I knew that had some dealings with Jane over the years, and I said to him, is there any chance that you could, give me an email address or something? Anyway, he did eventually dig one up, and so I sent this email to her people, and lo and behold, she wrote back and said it was one of the loveliest books ever and it deserved to be a bestseller, and she hopes I like her words that she'd written for it. And that was one of those moments in life that didn't feel quite real. It was astonishing. I was sitting out on the deck. It was a summer's morning in January, and it was a warm morning, and the whole environment around me felt surreal. It was very dreamlike. I could not believe that she'd responded and responded so beautifully. And from that point, she contacted me again and asked me to be involved with her cetacean committee, her dolphin and whale committee that she'd recently formed.
Oh, wow.
And I was, again, astounded and thought someone was playing a prank on me, actually. But, of course, I accepted. And so for the past, 18 months or so, I've been involved with this international committee, and I get to speak to people around the world about something I love very much, which is the ocean, and particularly dolphins and whales. We try and make a good impact, a better impact. So astonishing turn of events in my life, and to have her hold that book in Canada, it was. And I asked for a picture of her with a book. I sent her a book, and she posed for a picture, and that means a lot to me. That's amazing.
It's the best. So we don't know each other. One of the things, so the book that she's holding up is beautifully designed. The lettering is in white on this kind of jade green sort of field, and across at the bottom of the book is a very telling, beautiful shot of what looks like a bottlenose dolphin. Okay, so one of the things that I did in Hong Kong after the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, I started a campaign to protect the marine conservation. So in this case, I targeted sharks. but it was
Yep.
really about marine conservation. And through those efforts, reached out to Jane Goodall, reached out to a lot of conservationists. Of course, there's this population of humans on the planet who look beyond, like the greater good that we look to is the biosphere. And so where you live now and where you are now, what is your contact to cetaceans? Like, are you far from the ocean? Like, what? And but there's so many things that you said too, because you're a journalist, and you said
Yes.
that writing a book was hard, and I was like, but wait a
Yes.
second, you're a journalist.
Yes. It's hard. Writing a book is very different to writing a news story or a feature article for a magazine.
Sure.
And it's particularly writing a memoir, because what you're essentially doing is you're putting your heart, well, I felt very much so, I was putting my heart out on a plate,
Mm-hmm.
warts and all. Here's the good and the bad. Please, and putting it out into the world and hoping that someone doesn't come along and stab it, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because when you're writing a memoir, you're just laying it all out there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
stuff that nobody knows about me,
Mm-hmm.
and you're making yourself very vulnerable. It's a very
Yeah.
vulnerable thing to do, so it's scary. And going back and actually revisiting certain parts of your life is quite difficult.
Mm.
So there was the joy and the horror that I, revisited over pretty much almost 12 months. So it's very different to writing a story about something else,
Mm-hmm.
about
Mm-hmm.
something that, that's not a personal thing.
Right.
And a news story or a piece in a paper is it's not that long, but a book is 70, 80, 90,000 words. It's a lot.
Okay. Again, you don't know me. I come from the world of writing. I understand the process of drafting books, drafting articles. Also the task of the author, in the sense of when you're writing an article for a magazine, or it's as you say, you put a gap or a distance between yourself and the subject, and you're just reporting and you're just talking about whatever it is dispassionately. Whereas here, as a memoir, it's like you're going to the heart of yourself and vulnerable, as you said, for sure. Okay, so the title is called The Dolphin Who Saved Me. And I don't know what else is coming up, but is this the big reveal? Like, what about talking about that experience? Because to open yourself up and to feel vulnerable is to kind of to put yourself away from safety, to take away the safety net. So what is it about this book or this story that makes you feel vulnerable? Because from the outside, it's just a beautiful idea of a dolphin who saved you. Amazing.
Well, because my background growing up was one that was racked with domestic violence,
Mm.
and I that left a scar on me, and I entered the world as a young adult pretty much adrift and a little lost, and with a carefully constructed mask. Very few people
Mm-hmm.
knew about my past, and it was quite violent.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I drifted that way, really drifted along that way, until I decided to try and change my life, because I didn't want my past to define my future.
Mm.
And I put myself back through school and through university. And that's where I met a solitary, wild, injured dolphin called Jock when I signed up to volunteer on a dolphin research program. And the dolphin, Jock, and his the other dolphins in the river as well, taught me. They were my greatest teachers. He was my greatest teacher.
Mm.
He taught me about forgiveness. He taught me about trust. He taught me about acceptance. He taught me about connecting with the world around me. He taught me about bravery. And this was a relationship that I had with this particular wild dolphin for a little over 3 years. And
Okay.
he taught me more in that 3 years than I'd learnt through my entire life. And it set me on a journey to healing and seeing my life in a completely different way.
So I am a shit interviewer because I don't really ask questions. But here's the connection I made.
Mm-hmm.
Jane Goodall is renowned for being this punky kid who doesn't even go to university, goes and sits in the wild and observes and does everything wrong about scientific observation and data gathering of chimpanzees. And then by planting herself directly in the lives of these various groups, is able to make profound observations that, in a way, remake humans' perception of our place in the world, our relationship to animals, all that stuff. So the parallel of you rehabilitating for 3 years Jock and maybe others, maybe I don't know if maybe it wasn't just for data gathering, and maybe it was just for rehabilitation, or maybe
It was more connection, actually, if I could jump in there.
Please.
Study the dolphins, of course. That was the part of the plan, but it was a deep friendship and deep connection that I felt. Certainly, I can't speak for him, the dolphin, but he became my friend. And it didn't matter that I was another species and I was living a land-dwelling species in his environment. In fact, he welcomed me into his environment and accepted me for what I was. It's the first time in my life anything had done that.
So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.